Although we have all heard the news that the Shanquella Robinson case has been escalated to FBI investigation, many of us are growing more and more impatient, waiting for updates and answers to the universal questions surrounding her murder. Why? Why did the Cabo Six do this? Why didn't anyone stop it? Why did they lie? Why didn't Mexico do something sooner? Why did it take 19 days for us to find out? Why did it take Black Twitter's involvement to make it matter? Why didn't they call 911 sooner? Really? Why the $5,000? Why was she naked? Why did you record her? Why, Khalil? Why did you do nothing? Why are you hiding? Why did you refuse her the life-saving care she so desperately needed? Why did you visit her mother? Why are you not arrested? If you're like me, you also want to know why this doctor, Dr. Carolina Beatriz Ornelas Gutierrez, a young doctor who is really just beginning her career, why would she put it all on the line by lying on the police report and omitting the obvious signs of trauma that were present on Shanquella's face, neck, and back? We know she saw the bruises, the knot on her head, the split lip. Remember, Nazir told us she pointed it out to him. Take a listen.
When I walked in there, I didn't really notice the knot on her head until the nurse pointed it out. I did see the bump on her lip. She did have a blood vessel busting her eye.
Why did the doctor go along with the Cabo Six? They were all strangers. And why did the police allow them to leave without issue? Could this have been a case of the young doctor not realizing she was in the middle of a crime scene? Maybe she knew it was a crime scene, but had so grossly mishandled the situation that she felt the need to lie to cover her own mistakes. Maybe she felt outnumbered and was afraid to stand up to the Cabo Six. And there's the belief of so many who are watching this case unfold. Did she take a bribe? If she did, what was the magic number? 5,000? 10,000? Or was it the $17,000 we have heard so many rumors about? I've tarried over this question nightly ever since I heard about this. What on earth would possibly inspire not just one, but everyone on the scene to lie and put their careers at risk? To me, it seemed like quite a reach for someone who has spent considerable amounts of time training to become a doctor, a police officer, a first responder, only to end it all on one afternoon for 6 total strangers. In what world does that happen? In what world does someone do that? And then one night, while searching, it suddenly appeared on my screen. My heart raced with every word I read. I literally could not read the words fast enough. I was totally freaked out, and my heart went from my chest to my stomach. I thought, this cannot be. And the further I dug, the more my fears were confirmed. I couldn't organize my thoughts fast enough to bring this to you, but now here we are. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into why I think the doctor and the first responders all lied to cover the violent details of Shanquella's murder. But first, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on updates to this story, breaking news, and so much more. Now let's get into it. Shanquella Robinson, a beautiful young entrepreneur, was found dead in a San Jose del Cabo hotel room on October 29th after traveling to a luxurious resort with 6 others the day before. Mexican authorities stated in the autopsy that she had died from a severe spinal cord injury, but her 6 travel companions, the doctor on the scene, and first responders all had something totally different to say about that. They said it was alcohol poisoning and cardiac arrest. Later, a video emerged showing Shanquella being brutally assaulted by one of the 6, Dejanay Jackson. But when asked about what had happened to Shanquella, the so-called 6 friends, now known as the Cabo Six, insisted it was the alcohol poisoning that killed her. The Mexican authorities, along with the doctor's statements on the police report that Shanquella appeared to be inebriated, showed signs of dehydration, and that she ultimately had a seizure, all corroborated the alcohol poisoning story. But in my opinion, the doctor's statements unravel from there. She said her vital signs were stable. Is this possible with extreme alcohol intoxication? According to NIH, when someone drinks too much, whether it's over a period of time or all at once, the blood pressure becomes elevated. Check it out here. Another shortcoming in the doctor's statement is her glaring omission of the obvious signs of trauma that Shanquella had suffered. How does a doctor, encountering a patient who is said to be suffering from alcohol poisoning, look at the bruises on her neck and back, the split in her lip, the knot on her head, and a broken blood vessel in her eye, and not immediately become suspicious about whether any of that is playing a role in the patient's lack of response. Doctors are trained investigators. They are taught to observe all the signs presented as clues for what may be going on. This is basic general practitioner level work. I also have a problem with Dr. Carolina finding it more important to state on the police report that she asked the Cabo Six for permission to transfer Shanquella to the hospital, but they refused. Why is this so important to state? In my opinion, Dr. Carolina was trying to absolve herself from responsibility here. It's her way of saying, I tried to tell them, but we all know that a doctor doesn't need permission in a life or death situation. They have a duty of care, and part of that duty is to take prompt action if they think the patient's safety is being compromised. The more appropriate question that should have been captured on the police report would have been the basic investigative question. Where did the bruises, the knot, the split lip, the broken blood vessel come from? It doesn't take a doctor to know this. Anyone walking into that situation would have asked that question. Don't get me wrong here. I believe Dr. Carolina asked that question, but intentionally omitted it from the report. So why the discrepancy? Why did the coroner note trauma as a potential factor in Shanquella's death, but the doctor and the first responders pretended to barely notice it? Ride with me here. Would you believe me if I told you that the case of Shanquella Robinson is not isolated? That it happened again 24 hours following Shanquella's murder? What if I told you that on Sunday, October 30th, in Mexico, 1,200 miles from San Jose del Cabo, a woman died at the hands of two people who were supposed to be her friends? Days go by, then two cyclists discovered her body riddled with obvious signs of trauma on the side of the highway. They took pictures of her and posted them online. Her friends found the pictures and identified her. And for days, radio silence. No news, no answers, no word, nothing from the prosecutor's office. Sound familiar? Public outcry began to swell through social media, and the community protested. And all of this before mainstream press picked up the story. In response to the pressure, the prosecutor's office released an autopsy report that stated there were no signs of violence. And it said that she died while choking on her own spew from extreme alcohol intoxication. Are you hearing me? Can you believe this? The family protested this idea that no crime was committed because they had the pictures showing the bruises on her body. Then Mexico City's mayor, Claudia Sheinbaum, stepped in to help. She recommended that the family do a second autopsy. And when that autopsy came back, it confirmed blunt force trauma and concluded multiple traumas as the cause of death. The mayor then accuses Morelos prosecutor's office of corruption and wanting to cover up the femicide. She then launched an investigation into the prosecutor's office that later concluded that the victim had died of multiple force trauma. Let's take a closer look. This is from Reuters.com. And Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum is speaking at a press conference here. She says, it was the duty of the Morelos prosecutor's office to carry out the investigation. Then she says, without the intervention from Mexico City, this femicide would have gone unpunished. During the investigation, a video emerged showing the male perpetrator, one of the two supposed friends, carrying the victim's lifeless body, already with rigor mortis, from his apartment to the trunk of his car. You can see it here. During the press conference, the mayor revealed security footage showing a man who claimed to be the victim's friend carrying a body from a Mexico City apartment after she disappeared on October 30th. Check this out. This is from El País, a global periodical. The death of Ariana, 27, has shaken a country that first saw a man mourn her death on camera and days later saw the same man carry her lifeless body while getting rid of it. Do you see that? So the male perpetrator, her supposed friend, publicly mourned her, made Instagram posts of condolence, but in private, in his apartment's garage, he was seen on camera loading her body into the trunk of a car. When I saw how eerily close this case tracked Shanquella's case, I thought, oh my goodness, how can this be? The victim was violently murdered by so-called friends. Then they lied about the story through social media to cover themselves. Then the Mexican authorities state no signs of violence and cite extreme alcohol intoxication as the cause of death. Then a video emerges exposing the guilty friends. Then friends, family, and the media protest because of visible signs of trauma. A second autopsy concludes violence is the cause of death and an investigation is launched for corruption. There is no way this is a coincidence. It was 24 hours later, 1,200 miles away in another Mexican state. What's the connection? So I kept digging and I came across Debony Escobar. Debony was found deceased inside a motel water tank in the city of Monterrey. At first, Mexican authorities claimed her death was accidental, stating she had fallen into a tank and drowned. But a second autopsy found no water in her lungs and signs of multiple traumas of the worst kind. She was violated, battered, and slain in a different location and then placed in the water tank where she was found. Her final autopsy concluded that she had died from asphyxiation. Then I found Yolanda Martinez, who disappeared on March 31st in San Nicolas, Nuevo León. After several weeks of searching, she was located in a vacant lot in the municipality of Juarez. Authorities said it was self-deletion, but her relatives are seeking justice. They say no, she was slain. Her family also says it took authorities 2 weeks to even visit them. Then I found the case of Sleuthy Berlin, who was found asphyxiated in a phone box in Mexico City. Her family was first told by the investigators that she committed self-deletion. Then the authorities, who eventually ruled her death a femicide, took 2 years to apologize. And then I found Maria Fernanda Contreras, 27 years old. In this case, her father had to galvanize the community to search for Maria because the local authorities did not show up for 3 days to begin searching. And then there's the case of Ariana Lopez that happened 24 hours following Shanquella's murder. And there are so many others, enough to know that this is no coincidence. Why did Mexico blame all of these women for their own deaths when there are obvious signs of trauma at the hand of someone else? Because self-inflicted deaths remove any and all responsibility to investigate and prosecute responsible parties. That's why. In each of these cases, and so many more, Mexican officials covered up the violence, lied on the autopsies, failed to properly investigate, failed to bring charges against perpetrators, victim blamed, saying they did it to themselves. But the truth is, despite the 30 to 70 years of prison time for the crime of femicide, 97% of femicides go unpunished. Teresa Rodriguez, a sociologist at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, says, the attempt to blame Ariana Lopez for her own death by drinking too much falls into a pattern of victim blaming common in Mexico. It is a question of culture and bias among experts, doctors, forensic specialists. Any woman who has reported a crime knows this. This is courtesy of CBC News. If Ariadna's family had not insisted, it would have looked like an accident. Why does Mexico want to avoid investigation and prosecution of violent crimes? Among many reasons is the fact they want you, dear traveler, to feel like it's a safe place. Now we're back at the question why. Why were the doctor and first responders so brazen to lie on the police report even when they knew it could be challenged with empirical evidence? It's the culture, routine, it's the norm, it's customary, it's business as usual. You saw it for yourself. Another doctor, official, investigator, medical examiner, 1,200 miles away, did the exact thing the very day after Shanquella's case. And so many other instances exist. So yes, the doctor and the first responders lied. Yes, they are morally bankrupt for doing it. Yes, they may have taken a bribe. Yes, yes, yes. All of that is plausible. But even more nefarious and reprehensible is the system that provides refuge for the liars, the bribes, the cover-ups, and femicide impunity. Were it not for the families fighting for their loved ones, the public outcries, and the protests, they would all have been ruled accidents. Were it not for Gerardo lighting the spark, then Black Twitter creators, bloggers, and Black media fanning the flames, and now mainstream media catching the heat, Shanquella's case would have been ruled an accident. So don't stop telling their stories. Don't stop posting support for justice. Don't stop hashtagging. Don't stop saying their names until we have justice for them all. Devani Escobar, Yolanda Martinez, Maria Fernanda Contreras, Sleuthy, Berlin, Ariana Lopez, Shanquella Robinson. Justice for Shanquella. Stay tuned for part 3, The Timeline. For more information on the cited cases, please check the links in the description. Shout out to all my sources: Reuters.com, New York Times, Teresa Rodriguez, Gerardo Zúñiga, El País International Paper, BBC, CBC News, Mexico Daily News.